The boardroom was filled with tension. The air itself seemed to weigh heavy with power and impatience. At the head of the table sat Eleanor Blackwood, a woman whose silence had never meant weakness. Her hands moved with precision and purpose, signing about a $50 million project that could change hundreds of lives. But her words were being lost in translation. Her son Richard tried to keep up, stumbling through signs he barely remembered. Each mistranslated phrase turned her vision into numbers, her compassion into profit. Around the table, impatient executives shifted, their eyes glazing over, misunderstanding not just her language, but her heart. A lifetime of brilliance was slipping through cracks of miscommunication, and nobody seemed to notice. Nobody, except for a quiet pair of eyes watching from behind the glass door. The boy who was about to make the entire room listen. Outside that glass wall stood Devin Anderson, just 10 years old, the son of a janitor who had brought him along because she couldn't afford childcare. He wasn't supposed to be there, just a kid in a faded jacket, waiting quietly while grown-ups made decisions about millions. But Devin wasn't just any child. For 3 years, he had taught himself American Sign Language from library books and old YouTube videos, determined to communicate with his deaf little sister, Alicia. But he knew the rhythm of the hands, the emotion behind every gesture, the way silence could speak louder than sound. So when he watched Eleanor signing with passion and saw her words twisted into something hollow, something profit-driven, he felt his chest tighten. He knew exactly what she was trying to say, and that no one in that room was truly listening. In that moment, Devin decided he couldn't stay silent anymore. The door creaked open, and every head turned. A small boy stood there, nervous but steady, clutching the strap of his worn backpack. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice almost trembling. "That's not what your mother said." For a second, no one spoke. The board members exchanged puzzled glances. Some smirked, others frowned. Richard tried to dismiss him, but the boy didn't move. He stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Eleanor, his hands beginning to move in fluent, confident signs. The room fell into stunned silence as his voice followed, translating every word she had meant, every idea, every feeling that had been lost. Eleanor's eyes widened, filled with tears of relief and recognition. For the first time in years, her voice was heard exactly as she intended. In a room full of power, it was a 10-year-old child who finally made everyone listen. But not everyone welcomed the truth. Bradford Sterling, the smug, sharp-tongued board member who had been quietly waiting to take control, leaned back in his chair with a mocking grin. "Impressive," he sneered, "but this isn't a playground, boy. Let's see if you can handle real business." He began throwing complex financial terms at Devin, traps meant to expose him, to humiliate him. But the boy didn't flinch. His small hands moved with precision, translating Eleanor's detailed explanations, figures, projections, and plans with the calm accuracy of a seasoned interpreter. The board began to murmur. Eyes widened as realization set in. This wasn't luck. This was truth, fluently spoken through the hands of a child. Then Eleanor revealed the audit, the proof of Bradford's corruption. His face turned pale as the room discovered the $2.3 million he had stolen. The man who tried to silence a child was destroyed by the voice he had underestimated. The room erupted into chaos. Papers shuffled, voices clashed, and security was called. But amid the noise, Eleanor sat calm, her eyes steady. For the first time, she wasn't fighting to be understood. The truth had already spoken for her. Bradford was escorted out, his legacy collapsing with every step. When silence returned, the board members looked at Eleanor differently, not with pity, but with respect. Dr. Wilson stood, voice trembling with conviction, and proposed immediate reforms. Professional ASL interpreters for every meeting, inclusion programs for the deaf, and scholarships for young interpreters. The vote for Eleanor's housing project passed unanimously. She smiled faintly, signing with pride, "This isn't charity, it's justice." Her words, translated through Devon's steady voice, carried across the room like a promise. In that moment, it wasn't just a company that changed, it was a culture learning, finally, what it meant to listen. The story didn't end in that boardroom, it was only the beginning. Within days, the footage of that moment went viral. Millions watched as a young boy gave voice to a woman the world had ignored for years. News channels called it the boy who spoke for the silent. Eleanor's housing project was approved, and she named the new community center after the family who reminded her what compassion truly meant. The Anderson Center for Deaf Services. Devon's sister, Alicia, finally received her cochlear implant, and their mother found a stable job with dignity. Devon began teaching sign language to other children, passing on what he had learned, the language of empathy. The boy who once stood outside a glass door now opened doors for others, and as he signed the words, "I love you," to a classroom full of eager hands, the world learned that true change begins when someone chooses to listen.